Hey, how's it going guys? Today I'm gonna show you the top 5 ways to remove rounded nuts and bolts fast and easy. If you have been in a situation like this, you start working on something, you try to remove a bolt and then you round it off, or even worse, you snap the head off of the bolt. Well, it's not a fun situation. But don't let something like this make you screech to a halt, because I'm gonna show you how to remove a rounded bolt like this, and also how to extract the bolt if you break it off while you try to remove it. Now that's enough talking. Let's begin. And we begin with two 10mm wrenches. One is a 6-point wrench and the other one is a 12-point wrench. And now I'm gonna use a 12-point wrench to tighten up a 10mm bolt until the wrench starts slipping and rounding off the bolt. And the wrench is slipping. But if we now use the 6-point wrench, we can still turn the bolt without slipping. The reason is the 6-point wrench snugs the bolt from all 6 sides. Compared to the 12-point wrench, it can snug the bolt only on the corners. So the 6-point wrench has to deform more material than the 12-point wrench to round off the bolt, which requires more force. And that means you can put more leverage on a bolt with a 6-point wrench than you can with a 12-point wrench. So when you remove a bolt, you have a better chance of removing the bolt without rounding it off if you use a 6-point wrench to remove it. Now if you are using the open end of the wrench, then it all comes down to the quality of the wrench. Most cheap wrenches have very poor build quality on the jaws. They just spread and let go of the bolt, and then you end up with the rounded bolt. But if you use a good quality wrench, well, you can see the results yourself. Next up we move on to the sockets. Again, a 6-point socket is more likely to remove a bolt without rounding it off than a 12-point socket. And a good quality socket like this has these rounded corners inside the socket to keep the socket from rounding off the bolt. Now if you're using an extension bar with your socket, or if you're using a deep socket, make sure you keep the ratchet head line up with the center of the bolt, so you can keep the socket from slipping off and rounding off the bolt. If the bolt is difficult to get to, then you can use a wobble socket, or a wobble extension bar to remove it. If the bolt is rusty or stuck like this, then you can spray some penetrant fluid on the bolt and leave for some time to dissolve some of the rust. If that doesn't work, then you can use a blowtorch to heat up the bolt. The heat is going to expand the bolt, and that can free up the bolt. So those are some tips on removing bolts without rounding them. Now let's get to the rounded bolts. The number one way to remove rounded bolts is to use bolt extractor sockets. These extractor sockets have sharp teeth inside in a counterclockwise direction, which is the same direction you turn to remove a bolt. So I have my car here which is 20 years old, and I have a bunch of 12mm bolts on this exhaust manifold. These bolts have never been removed before, they are all rusty, and if that is not bad enough, I'm gonna round off one bolt. So now you have no luck removing it with a ratchet, and definitely out of luck with a wrench. But with an extractor socket, you just tap the socket on the bolt, then you turn it, and the bolt is coming right out. Then you tap the bolt out with a punch, and out comes the rounded bolt. As you can see, the teeth inside the socket cut into the bolt as you turn and clamp onto it real tight, so the bolt came right out. And the best thing is that these sockets have a hex design to it, so you can use this with a wrench as well. Great for using tightest parts, but if you have any clearance issues with the hex, then they also come in without the hex design as well. They also come in low profile sockets and deep sockets. And if you don't want to buy a complete set, you can buy them in individual sizes as well. Now with these spiral teeth inside the socket, sometimes they can cut into the bolt so deep that getting the bolt out of the socket could be difficult. So a less aggressive solution is to use straight teeth extractor sockets. These sockets work the same way clamping onto rounded bolts, only that getting the bolt out of the socket is a little easier. But not every time you can remove a bolt with a socket. Sometimes a wrench is your only option. And that brings us on to my second way to remove rounded bolts, which is using bolt extractor wrenches. These extractor wrenches have the same teeth setup as these extractor sockets. So I'm gonna round off another bolt here, and now we can't remove it with a normal wrench at all. Now let's see what happens if you use the extractor wrenches. Now that's what I'm talking about. As you can see, the teeth are digging into the bolt so tight and the bolt is coming right out. Now when you're using these sockets and wrenches, you gotta have them in every single size because you never know the size of the bolt that's gonna round off on you. And that brings us onto my third way to remove rounded bolts, which is using adjustable pliers. These pliers have adjustable jaws, so you can use these on any bolt size you need. And the best thing is that these jaws have very sharp opposing teeth on them. So on a rounded bolt, the top jaw digs in this direction and the bottom jaw digs in this direction. So these jaws can get a lot of grip on the bolt. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. And that is a 20 years old rusty rounded bolt on an exhaust manifold removed with pliers, no problems at all. My fourth way to remove rounded bolts is to use impact on the bolt. For this you need a hammer and a cold chisel. What you do is you get your chisel and you hammer it into the bolt until the chisel cut into the bolt. Once you get a good cut, you angle the chisel and start whacking until you break the bolt loose. Like that. And now you can go knocking until you drive the bolt out. And out comes the rounded bolt. And if you can use an air hammer, then you can do this a lot quicker. Now if the bolt is difficult to get to, like it is all the way down and your chisel is not long enough to reach out to the bolt, then you can use a screwdriver like this. This is a striking cap screwdriver, so you can hit this with a hammer and still put a good amount of impact on the bolt to get the bolt out. Speaking of impact, my fifth way to remove rounded bolts is to use an impact driver. This is a very inexpensive and a very handy tool to have. With the tool you get some bits, Phillips heads, flat heads, and also an adapter for the bits. How this tool works is you attach the adapter to the tool, then put a bit in it if you're removing a screw, or just put a socket if you're removing a bolt, then twist the tool to the left, which is the loosening direction, place the tip on the fastener you want to remove, and then you whack it with the hammer, and it is loose. Now to use this on a rounded bolt, first you get a chisel and hammer it into the bolt. The idea is to get a good cut across the bolt, like that. Then you insert the flat bit into the impact driver, you give it a few whacks, and out comes the rounded bolt. This is a good way to remove a rounded bolt if you can only access the bolt from the top. And you can even use a chisel instead of flat bit, so now you have more reach for those hard to reach bolts. And if you have an impact wrench, then you can do this a lot quicker. Now there are other ways to remove rounded bolts, like you weld a good nut on the bolt, and then use that to remove the bolt. But these tools are way easier and practical to use at home than a welder, and also cheaper to buy. Alright, now the worst thing that can happen when you try to remove a bolt like this is, well, you snap the head off of the bolt. So let me show you how to fix this. Start with spraying some lubricant on the bolt. You can also heat up the bolt if it is possible. This can really help freeing up the bolt. Now this bolt is sheared off deep inside the hole, so you have to use a screw extractor. These extractors have left-handed threads. So the idea is you drill into the broken bolt and then use the extractor to drive the bolt out. And a complete kit like this comes with left-handed drill bits as well, which is ideal because the drill bit is spinning in the same direction as the bolt if you have to remove the bolt with a ratchet. So sometimes you can extract the bolt just by drilling into the bolt. Alright, first you will select an extractor that is smaller than the bolt. Looks like this is good. Then pick a drill bit smaller than the extractor. Looks like this is good. Then you get a center punch like this, and center punch the bolt so your drill bit doesn't work all over the place. Then you drill into the bolt. Like that. Then insert the extractor, tap it in. Then you turn the extractor with a wrench. And out comes the broken bolt. Alright, now the bolt has come out far enough, so I'm gonna use a pair of pliers to get it out the rest of the way. These extractors are real handy, and if you want you can get these in smaller sizes as well. Now if you can't get a good grip on the broken bolt with the spiral type extractors, then you have to use square shaft extractors. So just like you did before you drill into the bolt, tap the extractor in, undo the bolt, and you're done. Alright, next we move on to rounded nuts. Removing a rounded nut is very similar to removing a rounded bolt. So these extractor sockets, extractor wrenches, adjustable pliers, and the hammer and chisel, they all work on rounded nuts as well. And I'll be sure to link all these tools down in the description if you want to get them for yourself. And that wraps up my top 5 ways to remove rounded nuts and bolts fast and easy. As always, if you like this video, press that like button. For more videos just like this, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.